Hello everyone. I just wanted to go over some of the prints that we did, or I did while you were watching me, and talk about the things that are going on with them, just to see if you've got any similar issues that might be occurring. So, the more we print, the more we're going to understand what our roller is doing on the rolling pad and what our pressure is doing as we're rolling it across our plate. And you can see this little section in here. Some of you may have had that too. And it could be that the plate itself is bowed or buckled. There we go. And there's a high spot, and when you roller it through, you're really not connecting with the actual pad itself. So one way to do that is to put more even pressure across the whole thing initially and roller. And you can do that by putting more blankets across the top of it, or maybe by putting another piece of paper and rolling on top of that. Other things to consider would be the bed itself. And if you're actually printing on a really hard surface, then that also doesn't have a lot of give, and your plate will buckle in an interesting way that you maybe hadn't anticipated. So put some of that fabric down. My suggestion would be to use the felt or a similar style blanket maybe, and then go find perhaps a tablecloth or a really heavy piece of plastic, something that's got a little bit of give to it, but it's also firm, and put that down, put your plate down, or your paper, and then print on top of that. Right. So that could be one issue going on with that. I talked about these things right here, and this is me forgetting to take my inked off print off of the piece of paper that I was using, and all too quickly I set it right down on top, this piece of paper on top of everything, and got my sides. So if that is you, or let's say that you are inking in the same spot, and you've inked on both sides of your paper, what you can do is you see that happening, and you've got your plate down, but you don't want to move it. You can put pieces of paper on top of that ink and then roll it. And I've done that in the past where I see maybe ink coming through, and it saves me a little bit of time and also the print itself. Again, a high spot here and stuff that might be lifting off of the plate as I roller. So of all the prints, this is a better copy of what I was trying to do on my printing bed, but I messed up by going too quickly and not actually taking this off of the piece of paper that the foam was located on. Alright. I think, I've got some more here. This is actually a really great copy too, and I like to rate my prints, and the best is always going to be on top. You could cut these out, and I could cut this out, and it's actually going to look really nice. This is one that I tried to just put on top of an already inked in pad just to see what I could capture. So it's kind of a second print on the actual plate that I use. So I printed it once, trying to see, maybe it was this one. And then there was still ink there, so I just put it down on top and rollered it. And then printed twice with one inking. Alright, so this is a really good rendition. I would call this a good one because I see clarity of all my lines in here. I see my edges. I have a nice even roll of white on here that matches the white that's in here. I also have some depth in my lines right there, and I have a really nice clean border. So that's why this is a really good print. This is a good print just for the clarity of the detail. And this one is not as great, and I had this occurring down here. So what that is, after I put my plate down and I put my paper on top of it, I pressed really hard here and I let go before I rolled all the way through. And you're noticing, I'm sure, that whenever you're putting this down, we've got a really good pressure, contact on one spot. And as we roll and roll back, you might be concerned you'll shift the paper, and so the tendency is to lift up as you're rolling back. And what I need to do is start down here and roll all the way through, and of course have the plate closer to me. So that was a product of not enough pressure towards the very end of my roll on the back side when I was, I guess, using the rolling pin. Alright, this one we talked about a little bit, but you can see this one. This is a what is when the print is on the plate and you roll it and then it moves, the paper actually moves. And that was me rolling once with my rolling pin and rolling back, and this is occurring. So the paper slipped. So that one's no good, but it's a great example of what that looks like. This is a great copy. However, there's something going on with the ink on top of it. And this, if you've seen the speckling here, what happened, and this might be actually my red that I used, that as it was on my rolling brayer, when I was rolling it, it was very sticky. And so it created this texture of stickiness on the roller. You can do a couple of things. You can roll it on another piece of paper because there's a lot there. You're basically creating a secondary inking bed. You can also, maybe if you have room, move it to another side of your inking plate and continue to roll it. So this is a product of the amount of ink that's on my brayer and the texture of that ink as I lay it across my plate. This is a good copy. And the reason why, again, it's a good copy is that I have really nice, even inking of black, just a little bit of lift right here. And remember, that's just because when I pushed it down, there was a bow in my plate. If you're having serious issues with that, you can certainly take your plate and actually glue it to a harder surface, even another piece of cardboard, and that will also help resolve some of that lift, in addition to putting it on an actual piece of fabric or something that's soft and has a little bit of give. This is an okay print, but I didn't have enough pressure. So I had enough ink on my inking pad. Actually, it looks like a really great inking to put on my plate. And how I know is that I've got a lot of even texture on here. I can really see the white grooves that I put in the plate. And I can see a lot of the stippling that I put in here. But it seems like either the ink dried and not enough came printed onto my paper, or I wasn't pushing hard enough to really get all the ink to lift off the bed. These last two, you can see, are from the Rainbow Roll, and I honestly have to say I like them both. I like this one better for a variety of reasons, even though it has this issue going on. So this, I believe, I gotta stare at it. I know. I thought it was white at first, but this is actually where there was if you can think about it on the roller itself, what I actually had was a lot of ink here, not very much ink here, a lot of ink here. So when I rolled it across my printing bed, it went from thick, thin, thick, thin. All right, and that's what this is. Not enough right here. And it's difficult on a Rainbow Roll because the more you roll it, the more muddy you make these sort of beautiful gradations from pink to orange to yellow. And so it's kind of like a point at which you rolled enough. And what I could have done next time is have less on my inking bed. And therefore, when I actually rolled it out in a nice long roll, I'd have it all mixed and evenly coated around my brayer or my roller. So that's what this is right here. But it's a really good Rainbow Roll. I had a little bit of double printing right there. I can see it in the margins. Can you see how it looks like a tiger stripe? Not very great clarity in the light bulb itself, but it's a really pretty rendition of that Rainbow Roll. This is the secondary one, so I did this one second. And now, as you can see, I have had this consistent space, right? And that is a part of my plate. And let's say this is something where I'm like, I really want to get this right. The next step I would do would probably be to make the plate a little bit stiffer because it is just styrofoam. Put it on a board. I would glue it with maybe super glue or something that can really just stick to it and dry quickly. And then I'd try and use it on my felt, not on this hard surface. Okay. This one is, for that reason, not as great of a print, although I'm getting a little bit better clarity in my detail. The center one looks a little bit fuzzy, and it'd be really nice if this was dark and then this had a little bit more of that contrast that I was looking for in the object in the background. All right, so that is kind of the rundown of how to look at our prints, and hopefully we'll have some experience with that next week.